So let's get started. Today in our Teach AI webinar series, we're really lucky to be joined by the folks at Ampere, and I'm going to hand it over to them in just a quick moment. First, a couple of housekeeping slides. So Steve, if you don't mind. So we love having activity during these webinars. We love it when people toss questions in the chat, observations, even just little, that's a great idea, or questions about how things really looked in the classroom. Everything is welcome. Please hit the chat in the bottom right-hand corner. Robin has said hello already, so don't leave her lonely there, and say hello back to Robin and maybe the rest of us here. Before we get the questions, which do happen, yes, we are recording today. And yes, everybody on this call will get the recording, as well as everybody who did sign up. So if you have colleagues who signed up that weren't able to make it, we're going to send that to everybody that joined, as well as all the links. I know Steve's got a bunch of links in here. We've got a couple ones towards the end as well. So you'll get all of that. So you can put the pen down and just enjoy today's webinar. And finally, we do also love when things get tagged on social media. We love to repost and share everyone's stuff. We are at forward__edu. Somebody took our forward edu with just one underscore. No, I don't know. We don't know who that is. But, find us and tag us, please. Next slide. So for those of you who aren't as familiar with us, with Forward Education, our whole learning philosophy is that we want to relate classroom learning into the real world. And so we are the makers of devices and software that help bring that coding and AI literacy from the real world into the classroom. We're using the microbit because it's such a powerful little microcomputer to do some pretty amazing things with physical computing. Everything we do tries to help students see the real world in the classroom and relate what they're doing to the things that they drive past on their way to school, like a wind turbine or a solar panel. And my last slide is next here, and that is in collaboration with Ampere. We have got to award 10 free charge devices. I can count, believe me. So your names are on the screen here. We will be sending out, I believe Ampere will be sending out an email following with how to redeem those. So congratulations, everyone. We do like to sometimes give away surprise rewards too. So if you're heavily in the chat today, or if you post and share afterwards, we might have a couple more in store for you. So that's enough for me for now. I'm going to hand things over to Steve from Ampere.
Awesome. Thanks, Cam. Yeah, thank you, Cam, Robin, everyone at Forward Education for inviting us to your Teach AI webinar series. Going to be a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun stuff to share with you. My name is Steve Blair. I work with the organization Ampere. I'm one of our STEAM educators. So I work in the makerspace in Lindsay, Ontario. And we are in our second year now of running a program called STEAM School. I'm going to tell you a bit more about what STEAM School is. You're like, okay, how do I do this? But we wanted to share that the way we really connected recently with Forward Ed, organizations have worked a lot over the years. We came across one of their lesson plans. We used it in our classroom. We let the students run with it. And they've come up with some really interesting projects. Later, I'm going to have one of the students join for a bit of a Q&A. So we wanted to show you just, how easy it is, how not a ton of work it is to prep a lesson like that, so that you can do it in your classroom and let your students really explore with this thing called AI that they all already know so much about. Yeah. So introductions, our team is huge. This is like a small slice of Ampere. Joshua is on the call with us. He's going to be talking shortly to you about what we call co-design in the organization. We try to bring it to all our work, including the STEAM School programs. Next up is Mel, who I work very closely with. She's sort of the lead on our STEAM School program. Today is a STEAM School day, which is why we have one of the students here. So she's in the classroom right now. They're actually teaching them some 2D animation right now. There's myself, Steve, another one of the educators, and then Talia there will be joining us a little bit later in the webinar to talk about their project and what they're doing and what they hope to do next time that we get the microbits out, because it probably won't be too long. We'll have them out again. Go. So quick agenda. What we want to do over the next, we got 35 minutes. We can do this. We're going to talk a bit about the co-design framework at Ampere. That's why I invited my coworker Josh on, because that's his jam and he explains it better than I do. I'll tell you a little bit more about what our STEAM School looks like, why we started it, how it's going, and then get into, that one lesson that we did, that forward education lesson. Just pulled it up, I read it, I did a bit of homework, and then I was ready to go, and how we've continued to use those tools in our classroom. Then Talia will be joining us for a live Q&A. We did do an interview, but I think she's more excited to do the live thing. So she said, no, don't play the video, Steve. I will be there. I'll come talk to these teachers with you. And then finally, just some simple tips that whenever we're using microbit or tech in the classroom, particularly AI stuff, some tips for you to walk away with. And then we also have some more resources so that you're not sort of left high and dry after 45 minutes wondering what to do next. There's lots to do next. So we've got that all ready for you. All right, and this is my time, so I invite Josh to unmute himself. Josh, do you want to tell them a bit about your role and what you do? And I will go through your slides.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you for the invitation and moving the slides forward for us. My name's Joshua Kilobuck-Strabel. It's nice to see a lot of our colleagues here as well. So hi from Steve and Josh from the other side of the webinar. My role is Manager of Strategic Partnerships at Ampere. I like to think of that as trying to bring in the voices of the communities that we serve into the organization so that our teams are equipped to better serve those communities. As you can imagine, there's a lot, I think, that kind of goes into that. We have over 100 staff now. When I joined 3 years ago, we had like 60 staff. So we've grown so much, even in that time that I've been here. Steve, I imagine, has seen significantly more growth. And so fortunately, though, when he reached out and said, hey, can you talk about co-design for about 10 minutes? It's like, you know what? We have a presentation that we give at trade shows and we do it in about 10 minutes. And so normally it'll be hard for me to keep it within that time frame, but I will try and keep as much time as I can for Talia at the end, because I think that's a really awesome and exciting opportunity. So how we Ampere. What is Ampere? Well, Ampere is actually an acronym for our 6-phase life cycle. The life cycle is pictured there. It's advocacy, mentorship, production, employment, resources, and education. And so we work alongside, and that's a really important word in terms of framing, is, in the nonprofit sector, often we get into the work with the idea that we're going to help communities, but that puts us in a position of power over the communities that we're serving. You need to be in a privileged position in order to help people who are less than. And also, I think sometimes limits what I would call two-way learning, and the learning that we have when we're engaging with communities is we can often kind of put ourselves in as a teacher. When you're in that teaching role, again, it's sort of a position of power over a community. And that's not how Indigenous communities work with Canada. That's not how rural or remote communities want to work with folks who are coming in from the outside. And so alongside is sort of that keyword, is putting, as best we can, each other on a level playing field. And so we bring in STEAM education, science, technology, engineering, arts, math to rural, remote, and Indigenous communities. Could you go to the next slide, Steve? So two-eyed seeing and two-way learning. Two-eyed seeing is more of like our core principle, and it's actually a Mi'kmaq concept that was introduced by Dr. Albert Marshall. And so the idea is that you would blend the best of Indigenous ways of knowing with Western ways of knowing. If you know anything about Indigenous communities, there are hundreds of nations in Canada, and big, broad umbrellas like Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee. My community is Inuit, and I'm trying to say nation more than community because we are nations that have entered into treaties, land claims, self-governance agreements with the crown. And so when we say two-eyed seeing, it means something different in Nunavut than it means in Curve Lake First Nation. But the idea would be, how can we take the best of our way of doing things and bring in the best of way we're doing things? And I kind of alluded to this earlier. That also includes a two-way learning, which is we need to learn how we're working in the communities that we're serving. We need to learn from, and you can't build, the side of the house that is an Indigenous way of seeing without learning what those ways are. Next slide. So our partners have agency through our co-design process and by having decision-making autonomy. The vision is for our partners to be owners of their project from the spark of the idea to the reality of it happening. And you'll see some pictures. My slides aren't as pretty as the slides you've seen before, but these are some images from our travel team and different places. I believe that one's from Women's Resource Development Center, and I could be wrong, but I think that was in Nunatsiavut, which is in Labrador. But agency, that's kind of the thing we're trying to build among folks. And probably a really great example of that is the Tatarvik app, which is it's an app we created with Kikitani Inuit Association, which you can go on. It's kind of like LinkedIn and Indeed, but within a Nunavut context. And if you're Inuk, for example, you could put in your sewing or your traditional hunting skills and it'll auto-populate a resume for you. And it's very popular with employers in Nunavut. And so they're already kind of primed for seeing folks. Actually, my boss got hired here through the Tatarvik app. He had downloaded that and kind of gone through that process. And so recognizing that in order to build agency in the world that Indigenous people are living in today after colonization, a lot of that has to do with workforce development, work readiness, and then having organizations like us who are able to also, to the best that we can, bring in Indigenous ways of seeing, knowing that these systems weren't built for the communities that we're operating in. Next slide. So nothing about us without us is an Indigenous principle. It's something that we say to settler Canadians, and it's something that we try to incorporate into our work as a settler Canadian organization, is understanding that nothing that happens about us should happen without us. And so with that said, we value diversity. We co-produce and share resources with our partners. We work one-on-one with folks. We try to listen more than we talk, and we help folks execute their plan, not ours. Next slide. So accessibility is a big thing that we try to work on. I know that I think I'll make an example. So the travel team wants to have their own star, like they can bring it to certain communities at certain times so that it increases that accessibility in places where there's not great connection. When that's not possible, we're bringing laptops with whatever learning we have preloaded onto those laptops. And beyond that, it's about working with communities to understand what challenges and barriers they have towards accessibility to the things that we're bringing, instead of just bringing in, something that's just not going to work when we're there. These are some great pictures. I shared that one of our old colleague, Ben, because it's just hilarious. And those are our guys in the makerspace. And that's actually another way that we bring accessibility in. So Cole is the one in the blue sweater. He runs Computers for Success Nunavut. And so we refurbish laptops in Nunavut. Typically, they're donated by the government of Nunavut, but I think we take them from other sources as well. And we redistribute those laptops to families across the territory. Next slide. Sustainability. And sustainability isn't, in this sense, isn't really about like using paper straws or plastic straws. It's more about how do the outcomes that we're working towards have sustainable impacts in the communities that we're going into. And what we like to say a lot is, we're not coming into the community, leaving you a t-shirt and then never coming back. It's how do we build that sustainable impact? One of the things we do, we try to run a train the trainer model in a lot of our programs. And so it's a lot of money to bring somebody from Ontario to Mayo, Yukon to run programming. It's obviously better if somebody in that community is able to run it themselves, but that's not always possible. The skill sets aren't always there. The learnings aren't always there. We want to work with folks so that they are able to facilitate in those communities themselves. And like every nonprofit, you would want to work yourself out of business. That's kind of the goal of that, is you would go in and I think there's a need for, especially within remote communities, having territorial and national partners who are able to leverage their networks to support different initiatives that are happening within those local communities. Next slide. Amplified. So that's the other reason I think why we had chosen Ampere as our name, is not just because it's a clever acronym for our life cycle, but also the main vision is to amplify the voices of the communities that we're serving. Rather than speaking for them or telling them what they need, we want to understand their realities, needs, aspirations, and then amplify that voice. One of our main mechanisms that we do that through is our Root STEM magazine, which is free to download on iOS, Android. You can get it on your phone. You can look it up online. I believe you can also reach out to us if you want physical copies. I know that, especially in remote places, there's a lot of schools that will order boxes of 50. And I think we print to order. So once we know how many people want, that's when we get those printed. And then the next slide. Our partners are more connected, and that's kind of, I think, where roles like mine come in, is being able to leverage our networks that we have. And, we have over 100 staff. We do work all across Canada now. Having started in Nunavut, we've met a lot of people in that time. And it's a lot of people that, if you're living in a remote community, you don't necessarily meet. But once you are invited into that space, it's a smaller and smaller world that gets bigger as we bring more people in. But that's really what we want to be able to do, is connect the communities that we're working with in the networks that we're involved in, and using our position within the nonprofit space to connect other folks, especially grassroots groups. And that's kind of what I'm passionate about. I joined Pingwalk as a grant writer. Pingwalk is what we used to be called. I joined Ampere as a grant writer a few years ago. And my main, what I love doing is supporting organizations with their fundraising. If you ever have a grant that you need an extra pair of eyes on, please send it my way. I'm all about trying to get more money for other orgs. Next slide. And that's it. That's it for me. Thank you again, Steve.
Awesome. Thanks for joining, Josh. Oh, we got another local recognized Kurt. That's great. Yeah, I'd like to see where everyone's joining from. That's awesome. Yeah, and that's sort of where a good segue into our STEAM school. So STEAM school, we're in our second year of running this program in our Lindsay makerspace. And essentially it came from, we were running after school programs, weekend drop-ins, camps during the summer. And we had a lot of parents say, my kid is really excelling in your program. They're so excited to come on Saturday. They did so well in that March break camp. But then they go back to their regular class and they're struggling for one reason or another. But when they come here, it's very hands-on, project-based. How do we do more of this? And a couple of us were sitting around. We're like, okay, well, what if some of these parents were like, hey, yeah, come on a school day. So we started it last year, very small. We had, I think, 1 or 2 students our first week. But now we have a group of 12 out in the makerspace right now, coming every Wednesday to learn with us. Mel, who I introduced on my slides earlier, she's a certified teacher, so she's super familiar with the Ontario curriculum, so they're not missing out on those key things they need to be learning. But as you can see, when we did our recycled material mini putt day, it's very project based. They just finished a whole social studies project where they were, building artifacts from all these different cultures that they researched about, rather than, just sort of standing at the front of the room and, reading a presentation or something. So it's something that, not every student would love, but we're finding the 12 that we have are really excelling, and we're hearing from parents, their grades at school are actually going up. So it's been a really nice affirmation that we're on the right path with this, and we're looking to grow next year. So we got a kid in Lindsay that wants to join us. Keep your eye out. But the student-led programming piece comes in with a number of different things. The social studies one that we just wrapped up with them was very sort of open. We sort of said, what you're actually creating, what you're making is up to you. Do some research and, sort of talking to them through that process. We had one of them build a I'm totally blanking on the culture that they did, but they built a maze. We'd actually done about a month ago a lesson on sort of the math behind mazes, and they used that because the culture they were researching. Mazes were really important to their art and their history, their storytelling. So they built a maze, which was really neat. And because we have the advantage, you know, our cap is at 12, it can be very personalized. We always have 2 educators in the room. I know it's very different from a typical classroom where it's 1 educator and possibly 30 students. So we do have a huge advantage there. But there's lots of times where we can customize those things for them. And so that's what sort of gave us an opportunity. You know, we're constantly thinking, okay, what can we do more? What can we do in STEAM? And my background personally, I'm really passionate about coding and technology. So we were like, okay, we've got these microbits sitting in storage. What can we do with the students to do with these? And we've done the, if you have if you have microbits, you've probably done the standard like rock, paper, scissors, like put your name on it. And if you're not familiar, I'll just hold one up. So where's my camera? It's up here. So it has a little screen on it. You can do all sorts of fun stuff with it. There's endless lesson plans for it, but we're like, okay, what's something new we can do with it? And we've done a little bit with our students in AI using another tool, and that's what we came across Forward Education's lesson on using the motion sensor in the microbit. So the motion sensor in the microbit knows whether it's like tilting left or right, forward or backward, whether we're shaking, you know, moving forward and backwards. So it has all of that data, right? It's just represented in numbers. But what the lesson plan guides you through is using a new microbit tool that we hadn't even heard about, where you can teach the AI to look at all those numbers, because that's what AI are really good at, looking at numbers that our poor human brains look at and just glaze over. AI is really great at looking at those numbers and finding patterns. So, you know, if I were to hold this and like keep moving it back and forth and tell it that, you know, it's moving forward, back and forth, it'll be like, okay, AI will say, okay, I understand that pattern. And then if I start, you know, spinning it like this, it'll recognize those are different patterns in the numbers. And so I teach it those 2 different motions or 3 different motions, and it will start to recognize those things, which is really neat. Now, I've got a little video here. No audio. There's not much in the audio, but as an example, these are the motions you can do. It's totally up to you. They were teaching the AI to recognize some great dance moves. As you can see, Disco is still alive. And then our friend here in the green, he's actually, I think I have another video where he does a really big punch. We had to warn him not to hit the screen, but he was trying to get it to recognize different. I think he was in karate, and he was teaching it some moves like that. But yeah, so this was the video we took in our very first lesson. So they just learned how to use it. And as you can see, it's nice and wireless. So we have Forward Education's charge packs, which are really nice. I'm going to talk about, like, I have no stake in these, but I love these things. I've told multiple educators over the last month to get some of these. I'll talk about the advantages that I like with these in a little bit. I'm noticing the time, it's almost half past. My friend Talia, our student, is going to join us just in a minute. I'm going to double check my next slide. Yeah, perfect. So Talia will be joining us in a minute. If you want in the chat, you can type a question. I'm going to have Talia talk about their project, what they did, or if you want to raise a hand, you can also unmute and chat with Talia. Just while we're waiting for Talia, I'll mention some of the other student projects. We had 2 of them work on the huge baseball fans. I don't know what team they root for, but huge baseball fans. And in talking to them, we realized that of all the jobs you thought were safe from AI, they've replaced umpires, the Major League Baseball umpires. So like, we don't need them anymore. We're going to stick one of these in the ball. They're going to stick one in the ball, and it will recognize, you know, whether it's a home run because it's gone really high, really far away from the batter. It'll recognize if it's a strike because it'll get caught really quickly. And so they were teaching it all those different motions. And there's Talia. Come have a seat. This is Talia. So Talia, I'm going to turn off my, actually, I'll leave my slides up. I know they're pinned. But got these educators. There are a few of them online with us. I was telling them about Jude and Sully's project, the baseball project, right? They're doing baseball. I've not told them anything about yours. So
Okay.
you have, yeah, I gave you this. I gave you a microbit. We gave you AI. We taught you how they worked. And we said, okay, come up with your own project. What did you come up with? What were you thinking?
An airplane.
An airplane. So you're gonna stick it in an airplane, and why?
Because that way the people on the ground, they can track what the airplane's doing, if it's going down too low, if it hits turbulence, if it crashes even.
Yeah.
Or if it has to like swoop suddenly.
So I'll give you this microbit. It's not on, but you want to show them, how did you teach the AI to recognize those different ones? We don't have an airplane, do we? No, we don't have an airplane. I think we'll stick it on a paper airplane. We'll see if that works. But you held on to it. And how did you teach the AI to recognize different types of motion?
I actually had to do way more moving than I would have thought. I was
Yeah,
moving
we had a
around
bug
like,
in yours that we still have to fix. But yeah, that was turbulence, right?
turbulence was that.
Yeah, it's scary
Swoop
turbulence.
was that.
Yeah.
This was landing.
Yeah.
No, that was crash actually. This was landing.
Nice gradual one.
Take off. Swoop, bank left, bank right. I think I got those backward, didn't I?
Right.
And just nothing.
Right. So it's like in the hangar,
Mhm.
boarding or something. Yeah. So you did a lot. And you remember the first time we did it, I taught you two things. What were the two things we did?
One, make sure
Yeah,
that
the
you
two
don't
motions.
have.
Oh.
Oh, it
The
was
wave.
jazz hands and wave.
Yeah, jazz hands and wave, which is literally in the lesson plan that we found on Forward Education site.
Yeah.
But you had 10 different things. You had 10 different things I would recognize.
11.
11. 11. Wait, they keep scrolling to find them all.
But
And
for some reason, nothing worked.
yeah, last time we loaded up there was a bit of a bug in it, but you kept at it. Right? Aside from the bug fixing, what was the hardest part? What was the most difficult part?
Figuring out how to do landing and swoop
Yeah, the landing and
together
swoop.
because they were very similar.
They're similar. Yeah, and so we discovered with a lot of the projects, if their motions are too similar, the AI might get a little bit confused. How do we know if the AI is getting confused?
Because it will, once you test it, it will, when you're doing one action, it will say that you're doing another.
Yeah, it'll say the different one. Are you shaking your table? It's a very wobbly table, thank you. There's some more turbulence for you all. I have more questions for you, but Terry here has a question for Talia. Did you have a lot of experience with microbits before the airplane project? I think we'd used them like maybe before the AI stuff. I think we
We've
used them
done
once
it
here, but
Twice with the same thing.
yeah, the AI
This
stuff.
is our third time with the same AI stuff.
Yeah.
But no, I think that was actually our first time that we really did just like a discipline sort of structured
Yeah.
one. The rest it was just playing around with the microbit and stuff.
Do you have them at school?
No.
No, not yet.
We
Well, that's
have them at a camp I go to in Peterborough.
Oh, okay, cool. So you played around with them before, but not the AI stuff. That's kind of new, isn't it? We hadn't even heard about that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so not a lot of experience. I don't think many of your classmates here do either. I don't think anyone had used the AI before. We did another AI activity.
I had before because at my old camp they used microbits every time. It
Yeah.
was a little pretty different though, and it was a little boring
It was boring.
because it was very repetitive and they really didn't tell us what to do. They just said, "Here's how you use it. Just do that."
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm gonna ask you a question live.
Mhm.
Was this one boring?
no.
Okay, good. Whew. All right. I hadn't asked you before, but that's good to hear. This one was not boring. So this is like, you enjoy using microbits now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know a lot of you have asked, and we just haven't had time to get them back in because we do so much. It seems cool. Great. Josh. So Josh actually works with us. Josh works at Ampere. Loves your creativity. Do you have any other ideas for how to use AI in microbits?
Not really. I haven't given that much thought.
No. Yeah. Did you see Cooper's project? I was about to tell them when you're. Did you see Cooper's? So we had some students. When I first asked them, they said it was hot and cold. Now, I had a feeling they knew. So some of the microbits have temperature sensors in it, but we can't use it with the AI tool yet. Not that I know of. It's very based on the motion sensor. So do you know how they did hot and cold? Did you see them? Yeah. So this is cold. You hold on to it, you shiver, and then what was hot?
I don't.
What would you do if you were hot? Yeah, they did this. So this is hot. This is cold. And they're going to hook it up to a smart thermostat. I have one at home. I told them I will happily hook their microbit up to their thermostat so that AC or the heat will come on.
May I send a message?
They can hear you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just so everyone knows, my name is spelled with an H.
Yeah, it's Talia with an H. Okay, so what next? So we get the bugs fixed with yours. How do we actually see if this works? What do you think we should do?
I might try it without swoop.
Right, because that was the one who was most confused with.
Nothing.
Yep. Right, nothing got confused with.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we test it out? Like, you're not an airplane. You holding onto it is not really testing it.
I wish we had. Remember those drones?
Yeah.
Maybe we could try with a drone.
Yeah, we have a couple different drones. We have the one that we can fly around the makerspace, and then we have the other one we can fly outside.
Well, I want to try on the outside drone.
Yeah.
Because I think the makerspace drones were really clumsy.
Yeah, those
They kept falling apart.
Yeah, this one's really light though. I think it worked with it. So stay tuned. Hopefully coming, we will definitely report it if we strap this to the drone. But I think that's a great idea. It's a great next step, isn't it? All right, one more question for you, Talia, because we're running out of time. What advice could you give to me to help my students with microbits? We just got our class set and are making plans. What would a good starting point to avoid those boring lessons?
Well, you have to make sure that it's not too long.
Yeah.
Like no more than an hour.
That's good, yeah.
And you have to make sure that you're telling them what to do and you're not just leaving them to play around for more than like 10 minutes at a time.
That's a good point. Yeah, yeah, give you time to play, but not too much, because then it just sort of gets a bit boring. I'm sure what to do. Enough guidance that you know what to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bye.
So, yeah, you want to do your bow? The royal bow. Awesome. Thank you, Talia. Thanks for the great questions for Talia there. Like I said, we did a video recording a couple weeks ago, and I mentioned to Talia that we might be able to do this live, and of all the students, she was the most excited. So glad we were able to get her on with you. Yeah, so they've had these really interesting projects, and like I was saying with Talia, they've literally been like, see, when we get the microbits out. Today, actually, a little bit later in the afternoon, we have some free time, so that's why I already have one out. We're gonna put the box out, and if they want to play around with it, they can, and continue working on those projects. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun seeing these projects come to life with, you know, a very simple, quick lesson, and then opening the doors to let them really come up with what they want to do with it. All right, kind of on the note, someone was asking, okay, what do I do with my class? I've got these microbits, or you know, you want to get them, or they're in that cupboard in the library and you're going to dust them off. How do you make sure they work well with your students in your classroom without, you know, too much effort? So I've got a few tips. First one is to get some charge packs. Again, I love these things. I've been teaching coding in classrooms for about 10 years. I've had plenty of opportunities to use microbits. And I'll be honest, a lot of the times I've avoided it. I've been like, no, let's leave the microbits in the box. Let's just do something on the computer. Because if you haven't seen a microbit, make sure I'm holding this up to my camera. They've got these little like red and black wires for power, and usually that's attached to a little battery pack. That's what you get from microbit. They give you two AA, two AAA batteries, little battery pack, and you attach it on there. That wire is flimsy. You know, I was in a school last week and we were using their microbits, And one of the first things we did, just so they knew what it did, and we knew it was working, we put the batteries in, and we left the batteries in for 100 minutes. We were there the whole period, and we were just like, there's no way to turn it off without taking the batteries out. So charge packs are rechargeable. You never have to guess whether those batteries need to go into the battery recycling bin, or if you've only got like 10 minutes power on it, so you charge them the night before. The on-off switch is huge, like such a simple thing. I have said to people, I don't know why this isn't standard on the microbit. It was sort of this like, oh yeah, I've been using microbits for years. I didn't think about how do I have this electronic without an on-off switch. And then the wrist strap. I don't know if you remember when like the Wii came out and you heard about people throwing them through your TV, like that video of Jude doing his karate moves. I'm really glad we had a wrist strap on them. And it just makes it more fun. Like we've even pulled them out for rock, paper, scissors, no AI. Just, you shake it to show it. We strap them on the wrist and they're just getting really into it. So charge packs, it's just sort of a no-brainer if you got a little bit of budget. It's really a nice upgrade to your microbit. Okay, number 2, don't worry about finishing. The lesson plan does have a really good finishing point. There's sort of a 2-part, we kind of combine them together. And there is sort of a clear finish line that, if you're like, okay, I need to write this in a report or something, or grade my students on this. But really, it's kind of open in that you can do a little bit of it and still the students really get something out of it. So the screenshot I have on the right there is some of the gestures that you can decide and teach the AI. And really the next step is then, okay, we're going to go into the standard, microbit block coding, and we're going to get the device to actually do something, play a sound, show something on the screen when it recognizes that. But we found our students were like, I don't want to go to that next step. I want to stay here where I'm, teaching the AI new things. I can see in real time how it's responding. I don't necessarily need my microbit to do something. I can dream that part up, telling ground control that the plane is crashing or has bad turbulence. Really hard to emulate with this. So, Talia just kept going and added a ton of gestures. She was up to 11. And not worrying, getting it to work perfectly. Talia mentioned some of the motions were really similar. It's a term we call AI reliability, where sometimes it gets confused between similar things. You've seen it with yours. And then another fun one was just saying, okay, now test it with someone else. Our very first lesson, we did waving and jazz hands. Waving can look very different from different people. So we had them all rotate around the room, do musical chairs with each other's microbits. And that's talking about AI bias. There are lots of classic examples of AI not working well for certain people because they weren't involved with the testing. So, talking to your students, test this out with your friend. Did it work for them? Okay, we need more data. And then number 3, another screenshot from Microbit's tool. This is how it actually recognizes in real time. So as you're moving it, you've taught it all the gestures, it gives you a percentage. This is confidence, or they call it certainty. We see it a lot in educational tools for AI. We don't see it a lot in the commercial tools with AI. I don't think I've ever seen ChatGPT say, here's your answer, Steve, but I'm only 40% confident. We talk to the students about that percentage and say like, okay, what percentage do you want to set as like it is correct? Because a lot of the times it can be dead wrong and super confident. What does that mean? What does that mean for your AI? What does that mean when we're using other people's AI when we can't see that confidence? So lots of conversations have come out of that. And even last week, one of them was using ChatGPT for a little bit of research. We let that go, but we had to say, we don't know its confidence. And we even said to it, you're wrong. And it was like, yeah, I am wrong. We're like, you can really easily get this AI to say whatever you need it to. And then, like I said, later today, we're going to put the bin of microbits out because they asked for them. The website's free to use, easy to get onto. The website has tons of examples for the students. It's built for students to follow along, to make their own game, thermometers, whatever they want to make, or just let them kind of just put some blocks together, or train it to understand a new gesture, and just start to poke around with it. It's not too difficult, and they seem to love it. All right. So some resources. I've got links on my next slide. Cam said he'd make sure all the links got sent out in the email. A few things that Ampere is working on that you may not have heard of. Some of these I just heard of. One is we have a newsletter specifically for educators. I don't know the frequency of it. They're just sort of starting to get back into using it. I'm signed up and I've gotten a couple over the last couple of months. So hopefully if you sign up today, you'll get something soon. New podcast hosted by our CEO, Ryan Oliver, and the previous CEO, Mel Serfadine of Canada Learning Code, called the AI podcast, which is specifically AI in education in Canada. So most of you, that applies all three. We do have a microbit course on our website. If you've never used them, goes over some of the basics and how like using it in your community. And then we actually worked along with a university student to create Control AI, which is a game for students to go learn about AI and how it works. Lots of stuff. All right, I know we're a bit over time, but I know, Cam, you had a few things to wrap us up.
Yeah, I'll keep it really quick. So in addition to everything that we've shared today, there's a bunch of free classroom-ready AI activities that use Charge and use the Create AI machine learning model to teach. So there will be a link to that. It's available now on our learning platform, and they're all curriculum aligned to science, math, and ELA. The next slide shows, can't remember, there we go. There's a great blog that our friend at Flux Space, which is a maker and coding and AI literacy space in Pennsylvania, who have a bunch of other really cool ways to apply Charge and AI in the classroom and aligning them across 15 different applications. There's a blog that outlines some of those. We'll include the link for that. And finally, the last slide, please. We've talked a lot about Charge, and Charge is certainly making AI literacy a lot easier with Create AI, but there's a lot of other fun things you can do with Charge. Simple step counters that you don't have to tape to your ankle or stick in your sock, rock, paper, scissors, and many more. Again, all of those free lessons and tutorials on our learning platform, link forthcoming. And I think the next slide is our thank you slide. 3 minutes over time, so I think we're okay. The email that you would have had to confirm this webinar, I monitor that one, so feel free to reply to the email or email us at codeforgood@4edu.com. Hit our websites, which are listed there, to learn more. And we thank you so much for coming. And Dipali, we have a question. You can feel free to just unmute and ask your question.
You mentioned that there's the slideshow has been shared, or
It will be.
It will be. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Just
Yeah.
wanted to confirm that. I checked my email and I didn't find it. So
Yes. What I will do, if Steve's comfortable sharing his slides too, we can share a copy of those. But what I will certainly do is share a copy of our standard Teach AI webinar slides, which has a lot of great slides. You can make a couple minor modifications and use them in your classroom or use them for a PD session within your staff.
awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, of course. I just saw someone asking for Joshua's email. I don't know if Josh is still on. I'm just going to pull up. I'm going to make sure I've got it correct. I'll put that in the chat. They want to stay on.
If there are any other questions, feel free to unmute or just put them in the chat.
Yeah, I'm not in a rush.
This was fantastic. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful
I'll
rest of your
give
day.
You too.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.